Yo, JD here, and as you can see, we are back on F1 23 as always, and in today's video, I hope that this is going to be a very useful video for the majority of people, even people who are fairly experienced in the F1 games, because I believe actually learning these things will really help you get much closer to your potential, and that is the topic of why you should focus on being fully competent with no assists. The first three reasons that really come to mind is number one, it is a lot more fun. Number two, you will gain much more performance. And three, you will learn the correct muscle memory that is only really going to benefit you in the long term. But first, what are the main assists? For me, it is the traction control, the ABS, which is the anti-lock braking system, and the racing line, or the dynamic racing line. All other assists, in my opinion, should be turned off completely. So this goes for the braking, the steering assists, automatic gears. Everything else should be off, and you shouldn't be running any of the other assists. There's only really three main assists that come to mind, and those are the ones I just mentioned. This would also be the order that I would actually consider turning off these assists, and we're just going to delve into why I think that is. So starting with the traction control, let's examine exactly what this is. In some cases, the traction control actually applies the brakes to slow the car down until it gains sufficient traction, so effectively it's just trying to limit the amount of wheel spin as much as possible when you're going on the traction. In other vehicles, and really in most cases, the system actually decreases the engine power to prevent traction loss. And really the issue of this is that you do not gain maximum performance from the engine, as effectively the power is just limited. So it's like going in a car and you put it on eco mode instead of the ludicrous mode if you're in a Tesla or something like that. So although it may feel like you're resulting less spins, the car is much more stable going on the throttle, a lot less traction loss moments, it doesn't promote the correct muscle memory, because many people who I've experienced in my coaching sessions, when they've been using either the full and sometimes even the medium traction control, they learn to be really aggressive with that throttle, thinking more is actually better. But even with the full traction control, if you are going on the throttle application quicker than what the steering wheel is doing, so really in a nutshell, and this is something I'll be going into quite extreme detail on, the more you unwind the steering wheel, the more you want to be progressing to 100% of the throttle. If you exceed that, and that is your muscle memory, then all you're going to do is just overflood the engine, and then if you do learn no traction control, you're just going to spin instantly. And with no traction control, the benefit of that is that you get the full power from the engine. So although it's going to feel much harder to use, you're not going to be bogging down on the exits, because with traction control, you may get a slightly better exit initially, but then because the car or the system is trying to prevent that wheel spin as much as possible, or losing it under wheel spin, it will actually fluctuate between the power of the engine, and you'll find on your delta that you're going to be bogging down. And it doesn't matter how confident you are on the throttle, how early you get on that 100% of the throttle, you will never be as fast as someone who's using the medium, and definitely not as fast as someone who's using no traction control. So really, all you're doing is just limiting your performance, but also really just with the fun with the car as well, because it is going to feel so much more restricted. And again, it doesn't matter how early you go on the power, you are just not going to get that outright traction performance. Moving on to the ABS, so the anti-lock braking system. In most, not all games, this is often the slower choice, as it does not allow the car to slide and rotate when braking into the corner. The main reason for this is because the ABS system is constantly detecting for lockups, trying to find the perfect limit of grip. In a nutshell, you'll find with ABS on that you will be able to brake in a straight line. Sometimes many users will benefit from this, as they can actually brake deeper into the corner, gaining time. But in my opinion, if you really want to learn effectively how to trail brake, which is actually releasing the brakes the more you turn in, you will actually gain much more performance from this, because you can carry much more momentum through the corner and rotate the car at the same time. So with ABS on, you can't really rotate the car, you can't really slide the car through the corner, which sliding the car through the corner sometimes may sound bad, but it's actually something you need to get the rotation, get the grip going, keep that momentum flowing through the corner. But if you're not in the top 10% of drivers, and often drivers who are not on an esports level and they're not in that top 1% or so, you'll sometimes find in some F1 games that ABS may be faster because you can actually brake later. You're not going to be locking up while you do it, and you're not really benefiting from rotating the car, you're benefiting from maximizing that braking zone as much as possible. So ABS on creates much more stability and confidence, which can actually help people gain some lap time. However, as I said, I feel once you really do learn how to trail brake, so getting off that maximum brake pressure quickly, the more you turn in, the more you release the brakes. You might not always be able to brake quite as late because it is quite a difficult art to master, but you will be able to carry so much more momentum through the corner, and you'll be able to rotate the car much, much more. The final assist is the dynamic racing line, and this is an assist I find most people are actually in a rush to turn off. But in my opinion, it's probably the last assist that you do want to consider turning off. The reason why I say this is because track positioning is just so important. Often I see during my coaching sessions that drivers are making the corners too tight. They are not effectively using the track available, which really hinders their ability to get off the brakes efficiently and use the throttle at the right moment. This actually results in many drivers thinking that they have a traction or ABS issue. I think it's so important to understand your braking and turning in points at first and not rely on when the line is actually changing colour. However, once you do have a grasp of these reference points, having the ability to not be distracted by the game's racing line, which I do say isn't always 100% optimal, and using it for the braking and turning in points really does allow the drivers to purely focus on the momentum that they're carrying into the corner. Once you start focusing on more of the speed you're taking through the corner, rather than relying on when the line's telling you to brake and turn in, you will only benefit much more, as there isn't always one perfect line of driving, as everyone is different. But that is just my brief insight into why I think the no assists are going to be much more beneficial to turn off. Not only is it more fun, you have more access to the car, but really I think you're going to have much more performance in your driving. And even if your goal is not to be an esports driver, to make a career in this, I can say from my experience, being more competitive at something is certainly going to make it more fun. But as I said, in my next upcoming videos, I will be going into much more greater detail on these aspects, giving some examples of what it does look like when you have it on and turning off and what the benefits are. However, if you'd like me to comment on your driving directly, then head over to coachlimitless.com, where I offer one-to-one sessions to all platforms so I can analyse your driving in real time. Give the video a like if you enjoyed, and I will be catching you very soon. Peace.